So our second topic is subtracting distractions during Lent. We're talking about the mathematics of Lent. Deacon Matt.
Yeah, so we talked about what we can add, talked about a couple of prayer forms that we can add to our Lenten practice. Now subtracting. Probably the biggest thing to subtract during Lent is the noise. There's a lot of noise in our life. It can come from people, it can come from the environment, it can come from inside of us when our mind just becomes so busy and uh, kind of jumbled with thoughts. So there's all sorts of sources of noise. One of the greatest gifts that God gives us is silence. And He speaks to us oftentimes in silence. Yet, silence is one of those phenomena that we hesitate to embrace because it's not typical, it's not part of our daily routine. And during Lent, it's a wonderful time to start subtracting this noise and adding the silence, not only to provide some balance for you, some mental balance and emotional balance, but spiritual also. God speaks to us in that silence. He gives us space for thoughts to bubble up in our prayer time. He gives us space for, I can't tell you, like, even when I pray, sometimes songs will come into my head. And instead of saying, oh, I got to try to block that out, I got to try to get rid of that, it's a distraction. If it comes to you in this time of silence, go with it. And even if it's like, I can't believe Jesus is using a Billboard 100 song to speak to me. He certainly can. He can use anything. He's God.
Right.
So that's my first suggestion is taking time for silence. So let's make
Yeah,
that practical, Steve.
I think that's a great tip. We have to slow down and we have to listen. That's what makes it sort of a two-way communication. We've got to be hearing God to be able to respond to God. What you can do in a classroom is take 60 seconds, maybe offer a short prayer. Could follow the reflection that you did earlier and just take 60 seconds. And I think that can be so powerful. And if your children are of an appropriate age, you might want to take them into the adoration chapel. And it could be 60 seconds, it could be 5 minutes, whatever works for you and your class. But it's a great opportunity to almost force the silence. We have to expose people to this if they're going to appreciate it. So that's what I would say for the practical. Give it a shot in your class.
So also, in addition to um, silence, we want to talk about subtracting this mindless scrolling that we do with screens. So screens aren't bad. Internet's not bad. We can do bad things with it. And part of that is wasting our time. So if we're going to get on the internet, particularly during Lent, let's have a good intention. Let's have something that's really driving our reason for getting online and scrolling. Again, scrolling through lots of stuff is not a bad thing. The question is, what's your motivation? So we can think of a million things, a million reasons to get on the internet. Let's try to find some reasons that are faith-based and scroll away. I mean, I would never hesitate to let my kids spend 20 minutes scrolling if they're telling me they're looking at a Christian website or a Catholic website. I'd be pretty excited about that, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I've ever heard that from my kids, but I would love to. And some people want to detox from technology. They maybe avoid Facebook during the season of Lent or any social media. But we can't escape the fact that it's there and maybe we want to use it. So I like your suggestion that maybe we replace it with something else that's really positive. And I just on behalf of Sadlier, I think Sadlier is putting a lot of great resources out there as an alternative. Sorry, I'm getting a little ringing in my ear, so it's distracting me. But there is a lot of very positive, affirming, and Lenten resources available on the internet. So maybe you
Mhm.
substitute mindless scrolling with intentional faith scrolling.